Okay, so we're starting Unit 3, and Unit 3 is about solving multi-step equations. And we're on page 1 of the new notebook for Unit 3, and we are going to go through the steps to solve a multi-step equation. But first, what I want to do over here in the left-hand side is I want to just quickly review what we do to solve an equation, okay? We locate the variable. We went through this in Unit 1 at the very end. We locate the variable. First thing we do, see what side it's on, and then we undo um, any addition or subtraction that's on the same side as the variable. That's why we figure out what side it's on, because we want that to equal 0 when we're done. We undo it. And then we undo any multiplication or division on where the variable is, because we want to make that coefficient 1. We multiply or divide. When we have a fraction, we have a little bit of a special case. We multiply by the reciprocal to get the coefficient to be 1. So that's kind of a little review of what we used to do just to solve one or two-step equations. So now let's talk about solving multi-step equations. So the first thing we're going to do when we solve a multi-step equation is we're going to look for parentheses or grouping symbols. Do you have any, right? They look like this, brackets, curly braces. If you do, you are going to use the distributive property to simplify. Next step, do you have any like terms? You're going to look to see if you have any like terms on either side. And if you do, you're going to combine them. So these two steps, you are simplifying everything before you start to do the next step, which is solve, which is this. So you basically have two steps you have to go through at the beginning to kind of look and say, is there anything I can do to make this simpler before I go to use my skills of solving, which again, you've already done. So we're kind of combining skills we have into one big skill to solve a multi-step equation. So let's look at the first equation, 9x plus 1 minus 7x minus 5 equals negative 20. So again, you're looking at your first step. Do I have any parentheses? Do you? No. So this step you don't have to worry about. Next step, do I have any like terms? You do. On this side, you just have a negative 20, so nothing to worry about on the right side. Left side, you've got a 9x and a minus 7x. Those two terms could be combined. You also have the constants plus 1 and minus 5. Those could be combined. So let's do that. So let's look at 9x minus 7x. It's really important that you make sure that operation becomes the sign. Don't miss that because everything will be wrong if you do. And now I have 9x minus 7x. I combine those to get 2x. And I'll put squares around my constants, plus 1, and then minus 5 again. Make sure that minus goes with the 5. When I add those together, I get minus 4. I'm just going to bring down the right side of the equation. Now I can do step 3, solve, right? So I locate my variable. There it is. It's got minus 4, 4 being subtracted. I'm going to add 4 to both sides. Remember this, make that a 0. I'm going to get 2x equals negative 20 plus 4 is negative 16. Now I have a 2 being multiplied, so I'm going to undo that by dividing both sides by 2, and I get x is equal to negative 8 for my answer. Okay, so let's look at number 2. Same thing, I'm going to do my steps. So I do my first step, parentheses. Do I have any? I do. So I have to do something for the first step. So I'm going to distribute this negative 7. So on the left, 91 just kind of comes down. I can't do anything with that. But I'm going to do the distributive property on the right. So negative 7 times 3a is negative 21a. And then negative 7 times this is negative 1. So don't miss out on that. So negative 7 times negative 1 is positive 7. So now I've got my two-step equation because I do not, if I look at my next step, like terms, do I have any? I don't, right? This is an A, this is a constant, and this is just one thing on one side. So nope, I don't have to do anything for step 2. So step 3 tells me I can just solve it. My variable's over here. I've got a plus 7 being added, so I'm going to subtract 7 from both sides. This becomes a 0. 91 minus 7 is, what is that, 84? equals negative 21a. I've got 21 being multiplied by a, so I'm going to divide both sides by negative 21, sorry, negative 21. And when I'm done, I am going to get negative 4 equals a. So a equals negative 4. Okay, so I'm going to go through my steps. My first thing I'm going to look for is parentheses. I have some right here, so I'm going to simplify. Remember, you have to make sure that you're multiplying everything by the operation that's in front of that number, that sign. So this is a minus 5 being multiplied by everything. So my 4m is just going to come down. And now I'm going to do the distributive property for the parentheses part. So negative 5 times 3m is minus 15m. Negative 5 times positive 10 is negative 50, and then I bring down my equals 126. Next step, do I have any like terms? If I look, I have a 4m and a minus 15m, and then this constant minus 50. Those m terms could be combined. I'll circle them. I have to make sure I look at this as a negative 15m. So negative 15m plus 4m is negative 11m minus 50 equals 126. So now, got rid of my parentheses, got rid of my like terms. Now I can solve variables over here. I've got a 50 being subtracted. I'm going to add 50 to both sides to make this 0. I get negative 11m equals 126 plus 50 is 176. I'm going to have divide both sides by negative 11 because this is being multiplied by m. And then I end up with m is equal to 176 divided by negative 11 is negative 16. Great. Number 4, looking for parentheses. I have 2 sets of parentheses. So I could simplify them at the same time. I'm going to look at this one, that's one, and then I'm going to look at this one. So let's start with the first one. I'm going to multiply negative 3 times k. I get negative 3k. Negative 3 times negative 8 is plus 24. And this minus in front of the parentheses becomes negative 1. So I get negative 1 times k is minus 1k or minus k. I don't need to put the 1 there. And then negative 1 times positive 5 is minus 5, and then equals 23. So be really careful with those minuses that are in front of the parentheses to make sure when you do your distributive property, you're multiplying the right signs. Okay, so do I have any like terms? I do. I have this minus 3k term, and then I have this minus 1k term. So negative 3k, negative 4k together, negative 1k make negative 4k. Then I have 2 constants, plus 24, minus 5. So 24 minus 5 is going to be positive 19. I bring down my 23. So I got rid of my parentheses, got rid of my like terms. Now I'm going to look for my variable. Here it is. 19 is being added. I'm going to subtract 19 from both sides, bring down my minus 4k. This is a 0 equals 23 minus 19 is 4. Divide both sides by negative 4, right? I got to divide by the same exact number because I want this to be a positive 1 for my coefficient. So I end up with k is equal to 4 divided by negative 4 is negative 1 on the right. Okay, the last one on this page. So do I have any parentheses? I do. So I am going to do the distributive property, and I've got to be careful that I multiply everything in the parentheses by negative 6. So for now, 20 is going to come down and wait its turn to be dealt with. 10x is going to come down and wait its turn to be dealt with. Now I have to do the parentheses simplifying. So negative 6 times 2x is minus 12x. Negative 6 times positive 5 is negative 30. So now if I look at the right side, I could simplify some like terms, 10x minus 12x. So 20 equals 10 minus 12 is minus 2x minus 30. So I got rid of the parentheses, got rid of the like terms. Now I'm going to look where the variable is. Here it is. 30 is being subtracted. I'm going to add 30 to both sides. So I get 50 equals minus 2x. This becomes a 0, so it goes away. And over on the right, it's being multiplied by negative 2, so I have to divide it by negative 2, because remember you're trying to make this into a 1. So divide by negative 2, and I end up with x is equal to negative 25. 50 divided by negative 2 is negative 25. So let's look at the next page. So do I have parentheses? I do. I'm going to simplify this part of the left side of the equation. So I'm going to do 8 times 2w is 16w. 8 times minus 1 is minus 8. I'm just going to bring down the rest. Minus 4 equals negative 116. Now I'm checking for like terms. I have some over here. 16w minus 4w is 12w equals negative 116. And now I'm going to look for my variable. Here it is. I've got 8 being subtracted. I'm going to add 8 to both sides. This becomes 0. I bring down my 12w. Negative 116 plus 8 is negative 108. And now this w is being multiplied by 12. I'm going to divide both sides by 12 so I can make this coefficient 1. And I get w is equal to negative 9. Number 7, I do have parentheses. So I am going to simplify this part of the left side of the equation. 11h just comes down, and I have to multiply everything in the parentheses by negative 1 because this minus out front becomes negative 1. So I get minus 2h, and then I get negative 1 times negative 1 is plus 1, and equals 118 comes down. So now I'm looking at what I have. Can I combine anything? I do have some like terms. I have an 11h and I have a minus 2h. So I have 9h plus 1 equals 118. So now I simplified my parentheses in like terms. So now I can look for my variable. Here it is. I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides because 1's being added. So make that 0. I get 9h equals 117. And then because 9 is being multiplied by h, I'm going to divide both sides by 9. And that becomes 1. So I get h is equal to 13. 117 divided by 9 is 13. Okay, number 8. I have parentheses I can simplify. So I have to multiply everything in the parentheses by 1/2. 1/2 times 10, if you don't remember, you can just make 10 into a fraction, multiply the tops, multiply the bottoms, and then when I look at 10 over 2, I know that 10 divided by 2 is 5. So I'll bring down this minus 25. Then I'm going to do what I just did, the 1/2 times 10, and get 5x. And then what's 1/2 times 2? Well, it's going to be minus because it's positive times a negative. Same process, 1/2 times 2 equals 2 over 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So this becomes 1. Bring down the plus 3x. So now I got rid of my parentheses by using the distributive property. I'm looking for like terms. On the right, I have a 5x and a 3x. So I'm going to add those. So I bring down my minus 25. 5x plus 3x is 8x. And then I have this minus 1. So now I simplified everything. I'm going to look for my variable. There it is. I have minus 1 over here, so I'm going to add 1 to both sides. I end up with negative 24 equals 8x. This becomes a 0, so it goes away. 8 is being multiplied by x. I'm going to divide both sides by x, and negative 24 divided by 8 is negative 3, and then this becomes 1x, so the right side's x. Okay, a little bit more complicated fraction on this one. I do have parentheses, and so I have to simplify this section first. So 7 is just going to come down and wait for me to simplify the parentheses part. So I know negative 5/2 times 8r is going to be a minus, but what's it going to be? So let's look. 5/2 times 8. I'm going to make that into a fraction. 8 times 5 is 40. 2 times 1 is 2. 40 divided by 2 is 20. So this is going to be minus 20r. So that's the first one. Next one, I know it's a minus times a minus, so it's going to be a plus, but let's look at what it is. It's going to be 5/2 times 6. I'm going to make this into a fraction, and then multiply the tops. 5 times 6 is 30. 2 times 1 is 2. 30 divided by 2 is 15. So plus 15. So I just simplified everything that was in the box. Now I can bring down the rest. Plus 2r equals 32. Okay, so now I'm looking for like terms. I have some r terms. I have a minus 20r and I have a plus 2r. So if I add those together, I get negative 18r. I have a couple of constants together on the left. I have 7 and I have plus 15. So 15 plus 7 is 22. Notice you can't combine things that aren't on this are on different sides of the equal sign. I can't add 32 in there. You have to work on each side separately. So negative 18r plus 22 equals 32. I bring that down. So now I've got an equation that now I can locate the variable. 22 is being added, so I'm going to subtract 22 from both sides. This becomes 0, so I get negative 18r equals 32 minus 22 is 10. Then I'm going to divide both sides by negative 18 to make this a 1, and I get r is equal to negative 10 over 18. But since I know they're both even, I know it can be reduced at least by 2. So I'm going to try that first. I'm going to reduce the top and the bottom by 2, and I get negative 5 over 9. And when I look at 5 and 9, I know there are no common factors, so the answer is r is negative 5 over 9. The last question is a word problem that they want you to translate and then solve. So they're telling us 5 times the difference of twice a number, so 5 times the difference of twice a number and 3, decreased by the sum of the number and 8 equals 13. This is a lot. The one thing I can tell you right off the bat is this part's pretty simple, equals 13. I can do that pretty quickly. The rest is a little crazy. So 5 times the difference of twice a number and 3. Okay, so the difference of twice a number and 3 would be 2x, 2 times x, that's twice a number, and 3, and it's the difference, so it's 2x minus 3, and they want me to do 5 times that, so they want me to take 5 times that whole thing. So I just wrote this whole part here. Then it says it's decreased by, so I'm going to do subtraction, decreased by the sum of the number and 8. So the same variable, the number and 8. So I have to put this in parentheses because it's decreased by this whole thing. I'm sorry, not n, x, I used x. It's the same variable, the number and x and 8. Because see how they say the number and number? It's the same variable. So this is pretty complicated stuff. And here, I'll erase this and move it closer. This is pretty complicated stuff getting from this crazy thing that they wrote to this. But that's what it is. So we can solve this. Now comes the part that is going to be a lot easier than translating it. And the first thing I have to do is get rid of the parentheses. And I have 2 sets of parentheses. So I'm going to put this in a box, and I'm going to put this in a box. And I'm going to simplify both these sections. The first one, 5 times 2x is 10x. 5 times minus 3 is minus 15. When I look at the next section, I have a minus 1 out in front of here. So minus 1 times x is minus 1x. Minus 1 times 8 is minus 8 equals 13. Now I want to see if I have any like terms. And I have some x terms. 10x minus 1x. That's 9x. And then I have negative 15 and negative 8. I combine those. I get negative 23 equals 13 comes down. And now I can solve. I did all my simplifying of parentheses and like terms. I find my variable. I look to see if there's anything being added or subtracted. It's subtracting 23. So I'm going to add 23 to make this go away on this side and become 0. I bring down my 9x. 13 plus 23 is 36. This is being multiplied by 9, so I'm going to divide by 9 to make this a 1x because I want the coefficient to be 1. And 36 divided by 9 is 4. So that is the answer to that one. So those are your notes for solving multi-step equations. Remember, you're looking for parentheses, then you're looking for like terms, and then you're going to solve.